Hello everyone, it's time for another ProGuides video. My name is Nathan Ng and I'd like to welcome you guys back to our channel. In today's video, we're going to be giving you guys 8 tips that you can use to become a better in-game leader. Being an in-game leader is one of the hardest things to do in CSGO, and today I want to give you guys some ideas on how you can quickly improve your calling skills and take your team to the next level. I would really like to give a quick disclaimer as this video is geared towards mainly playing with an actual team. If you're playing solo queue in a competitive match, you probably won't be able to use most of this information. Even if you aren't an in-game leader, you still might find some of this information useful, and you might want to try implementing it in your own teams. But before we get started, you know what time it is. It's time for our question of the day. Today's question is, in your opinion, who is the best in-game leader? I think it's gotta be Glaive. With how much he has innovated the way he's played the game at the top level and winning 4 majors, it's hard to make a case for anyone else. For the time being, I actually consider him the greatest in-game leader in the entire history of Counter-Strike and not just CSGO. Without further delay, let's go ahead and get into some tips that you can use to become a better leader. Communication is extremely important. It can make or break your team's play. Before you even jump into a server or into practicing, you should establish a few rules regarding communication with your teammates. Make sure that nobody is talking over each other or flooding the comms during the games, as well as getting everybody to know the clear and concise information. For example, when you call an enemy's location, the only things that you should be saying are how many you saw and where they were. Anything more than that is unnecessary. You want to keep your communication as clear and concise as possible, and another way you can do that is by having one-word names for certain plays. For example, you can use the word stall as a way to getting your teammates to fall back and stay alive while you make a play. You can also use this term if you're flanking an enemy or lining up a multi-kill. Another example is using the term pinned to tell your teammates that you have a flash pulled back and are ready to throw whenever they want. By using these code words to describe plays, you spend less time making calls, and it's easier to get a better understanding to get everyone to focus on the game. Try to come up with a few of these on your own so you can use it in your teams to clear up the comm channel. Just like how practice routines are important for improving your own individual skill, you need to be able to utilize a proper practice routine for your team as well. Try to start at the same time every day if you can, so everybody knows when to be online and is ready to practice on time. You should spend time doing things that you can do only when 5 players are online. This means stuff like practicing your set strats if you have any and playing scrims. Don't use your practice time to explain grenades or simple strats that the team can learn on their own time. Make sure that everyone is on the same page and knows what you're going over before practicing. You want the time you spend as a team together to be as efficient as possible, so making a schedule and then sticking to it. An example of this would be spending 20 minutes in a practice server to drive run strategies, playing 2 or 3 scrim matches, and then spending another 15 minutes to discuss how the team played and what adjustments can be made to play better next time. If you don't need all 5 players to be present for something, try to do it outside the regular practice hours so you can get the most efficiency out of your most practice sessions. This is especially important if your practice hours are limited due to work or school. Another important aspect of leading a team is knowing how your players play and using them effectively. As a leader, you need to identify your teammates' strengths and then use them to your team's advantage. If you have an opera on your team who likes to peek aggressively and go for picks, don't put him on a leash. Instead, support him by throwing flashes towards the angles that he wants to peek so he has a better chance of getting a kill. This also applies to solo queue competitive, but you have to pick up on these traits quite quickly with your teammates, so make sure you utilize your team's strength to the best of their abilities. If you have a more passive player on your team that is good at clutching into late round situations, don't make him go in first on your team executes. Let him stay towards the back and work his magic. By putting your teammates in their most comfortable roles and positions, you allow them to perform at their best possible level, which can bring a lot of success to your team. This might actually make you end up playing a less favorable role or position, but it's one of the sacrifices that you will have to make as the leader, and your team will definitely appreciate your selflessness. Calling to your level is probably something that you're not familiar with, but I'll do my best to explain it. Calling to your level is essentially being aware of the level of competition you play at and using it to decide how you run your team. If your team is a group of Gold Nova players, don't try to do complex force smoke executes or really detailed fake strats. At that level, you need to prioritize more basic strats like taking map control and trading your way into bomb site. A lot of the strategies that you see in the top level only work because they're being ran at the top level. These strats are designed specifically on how to counter other pro teams, and you probably don't play at a high enough level to where you can call the same way. I'm not saying that you should never try doing a smoke execute, but as a lower level team, you should not really worry about this. Worry about nailing the fundamentals of communication and team play and working on that foundation before you try to copy a really super cool pro strat that you found while looking on YouTube. Part of being a leader is presenting yourself in a way that makes your team very comfortable. You need to stay calm and not let your emotions get in the way of your calling, not for yourself but also for your teammates. If you start to get upset and you don't sound confident about the calls that you're making, your team probably won't feel very confident about it either. CSGO is a very momentum-based game, and a bad mentality can allow the momentum to swing into your opponent's favor. Regardless of what happens, try to keep your head up and try to make your calls the same way every single round to prevent your team morale from going down. Your teammates look to you for instructions, and if you don't sound confident about what you're calling, then your teammates won't feel confident either. A good mindset can make a bigger difference than you might imagine, so keep a clear mind and have confidence in your calls and your teammates. One of the most important things about playing CSGO is being unpredictable, and this especially applies if you're the one calling the shots. If you go through the same routines every single round, the other team will start to take notice and eventually find a way to counter you. It's important that you constantly change the way that your team plays in order to prevent other teams from stopping you dead in your tracks. Let me give you an example. Let's say that I'm calling for my team on T-side Inferno, and we just won 3 rounds in a row by playing really fast and rushing the bomb site together. By now, the other team realizes that we're just rushing and they plan to counter us by throwing a lot of grenades at the beginning of the round. In order to prevent this, for the next round, I will call for my teams to change the pace and play slowly. This includes holding back in really passive positions and waiting for the enemy team to use most of their grenades before we group up and hit the bomb site together. The other team will have wasted most of their utilities, and then we'll go into the site and trade our way into the post plan. Being able to recognize these patterns and changing up how you can play can make a very big difference in the amount of rounds that you can win on T-side. Sometimes as an in-game leader, you won't have all the answers. You might be having a rough day, or you might have an issue reading how the opponent is playing and you're not sure what to do. It's important to remember that you have 4 other teammates with different perspectives in the game, so don't be afraid to ask for help or try out some of their ideas. Calling a pause during a game and asking your teammates for their input is not only something that will benefit your team when you're feeling stuck, but it will also allow you to show your teammates a sign of humility, and they will respect that. Sometimes your teammates will be able to recognize key pieces of information when playing on other parts of the map that you potentially can't see yourself. Asking your teammates for help is not a sign of weakness, and actually, asking for help is a really important aspect of being a leader. Don't treat your role as an in-game leader like a dictator. Your teammates will hate you, and they probably won't listen to you or respect you. This next topic is probably the least exciting, but at the same time is one of the most important aspects of being an in-game leader. Watching demos is extremely important for several reasons. Let's talk about the 3 types of demos that you should be watching and why. Firstly, one of the best ways for you to improve as a team is by watching your own team's demos. It's important to be able to recognize what went wrong in your matches so you can go over those issues in your next practice sessions and fix them before your next game. Some of the main things that you can look for is issues with positioning, coordination, and possibly some bad tendencies that your players might have. Being able to go back and reflect on these past failures is one of the best ways that you can improve as a player and as a person in general. It might even be beneficial for you to sit down with your team and watch the demos together, discussing what went wrong and what adjustments that you can make to fix those problems. If you do this, I guarantee that you'll see massive amounts of improvements in your team's plays. Some in-game leaders like Sean Gares are famous for winning matches where they knew the entire enemy's playbook and countered them every round. Obviously, you're probably not going to be going against the same people every single round, but you can learn a thing or two about other people and common strats. This is known as anti-stratting, and he was able to do this because he watched demos of his opponents for hours on end. Picking apart every strategy that they ran, what cues that they give before they're about to run those strategies, and figuring out what ways to counter them. Setting your opponent at the highest level of CSGO is a necessity, and it's what makes a lot of less skilled players like Kerrigan have a lot of impact on the game outside of fragging. Now with that being said, when you're playing the lower level leagues and you're just trying to play with some friends, then there's a good chance that you won't be able to do the anti-strat that most teams will have because they'll have a much looser style of play. However, it can be good practice to study individual players on the opposing team, picking up on their tendencies and using them to your advantage when it comes to an actual match. You shouldn't be copying every little thing that pros do, but watching their demos can give you guys some insight on how to work together in a team setting. There are a lot of things that pros do that you can learn from other than just fancy strats. Things like flashing for your teammate, pushing together, and rotations are also pretty important to look for when watching these pros. Try going through some professional demos and taking some notes specifically on how they support their teams, and try to implement some of the more macro plays on your own. This will be a lot more beneficial to you than trying to copy their fancy 5-smoke executes. With that being said, that's going to be the end of this video. Hopefully this video allowed you to get a better understanding of how you can improve as an in-game leader. I also want to say another disclaimer. Being a leader has many different aspects in life, but being an in-game leader is a little bit more nuanced, and this guide hopefully kind of covers those bases. You guys know what type of leaders you guys are more than we do. Are you somebody that delegates? Are you somebody that coaches? Or are you somebody that motivates? Ask these questions and see how you reflect on these playstyles, and let me know what type of leader that you are. Please be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new content from the ProGuides team. If you want to take your game to the next level, then feel free to head over to ProGuides.com. You'll have the ability to work with our expert coaches to get personalized experiences for improving your own game. If you want to brush up on basics, then we have a handful of courses available for you. Best of luck in your competitive matches and have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and peace.